This topic is reading, and we're going to talk about really something that me and Todd bond on. We're going to talk about books, doing kind of the maximum that you can in reading outside of the classroom, outside of your daily life and your work life. So this is an interesting one because I know a lot of people kind of look down on books. You don't really want to read and do the extra work. But this is a topic that me and Todd bond on, so I'm going to pass it off to Todd and let him take the reins on reading.
Thank you. Yeah, to echo what you said, I think our friendship, the foundation of it was reading. And books have changed my life completely. And, you know, I spend a lot of time in an office, a lot of time looking at spreadsheets and reading contracts and whatever else. And it's not fun. But what excites me about reading is what I do, we'll call it for this sake, after 5 o'clock. I don't know when this started for me, probably after college when I was done being forced to read and I could start reading for myself a little more. But I didn't realize that if you want to learn something, whatever it is, if you want to get better at something, there is a plethora of information out there in these things called books, right? And you can pick them up and you can become an expert on a topic. Not an expert, it's always a work in progress, but almost overnight. And I say all the time when I get a chance to talk to young people that nothing has changed my life more and been more important to me than the power of a book.
Yeah, so using force, I think it's a great term because in high school, really all through up until high school and college, you're given books to read, right? Whether you do it or not, or chapters or assignments or articles, whether you do it or not is up to you, right? But mostly it's for the assignment. The assignment is life.
Sure.
So you're kind of picking the books you want to read, the authors, the chapters. You might not even have to read a whole book. Maybe you only want to read 3 chapters. The articles, the podcasts we always talk about, listening to that stuff. Anything content-wise that you want to consume, you're choosing that. So for Todd, let's start with some of the books that you would recommend. I mean, they could be real estate books because of your background as a real estate investor, or they could be tied into, maybe self-awareness or, self-learning or just motivational stuff. So give, our audience some of those books to pick up.
Absolutely. And, just to piggyback off of what you said quickly, when you're not forced to read something, when you seek out that knowledge or information, it's amazing how much, not only you enjoy it, but how you can comprehend it and implement it into your life. So for recommendations, I do work in the real estate space, and rental properties to me is a great avenue for wealth building. And there are 2 books that I recommend. One by a gentleman named John Schaub. It's the How to Build Wealth One House at a Time. And then by a gentleman named Brandon Turner, the Big Book on Rental Properties. They're great for beginners. It goes through the whole model that I implement with my partner, as well as some things I teach. If you really want to learn how to work with and master the art of relationships and people, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, that's like a Bible for everybody. And I also like, it's long, but it's a little dated, but it is still effective, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And one's for grit and growth mindset. I think the book Grit by Angela Duckworth is one of the best and relatively new. And she's a Philadelphia person, so I like that too.
Sure. So now it's one thing to know what books to read, and for our students, that might be the starting point.
Yep.
The next thing is, how do you get this into your life? With our cell phones, with all these apps, with all these social media platforms, and really with our friends and family, there's only so much face time, right?
Sure.
So how do you put your face down and concentrate on a book?
Yep. And I would say this is one of my biggest weaknesses that I work on, and we talk about this a lot, I like to say in this world, we're drowning in information but starving for wisdom. And that's not my line, but one of my mentors taught me that. And I think just committing to it daily. You don't need to spend 6 hours a day reading. Half hour in the morning, half hour after work, whenever. I know for me, because I do have a more structured 9-to-5 life, that reading after work can be very challenging. But if I can get it done 15 minutes in the morning or consume it via audiobook, it works really well. But putting down your phone, turning off the TV is key. And the one thing I do want to mention too, reading is tough, right? Not everybody can sit there with a book, but if you can consume it via audio, there is value to that too. I don't know how much watching it would help me personally, but there are other ways to consume the information.
Yeah, great. So we have the books, some of the books that they can read, really the how-to, and then tell some stories about how these books have changed your life, whether it's one of the ones you mentioned already or just a different book, because what we want to leave here is impact, and we want to show the impact of reading to these students and interns.
Absolutely, and I'm going to stick with the money topic if that's okay. So when I was 14, I was given a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. And it's a real basic book. I think it's like less than 100 pages, and it just talks about the power of savings and investing. And at 14, you don't know much about that, but it was given to me by one of my dad's friends, who's a financial advisor, and said that, jokingly, he used to read this to his children as bedtime stories. And I read it, and there was a couple lessons in there that I implemented right away, and it sprungboarded me into the ability to invest and build a little bit of wealth and continue to do it for what I would hope to be multi-generational. And you're never too young or old to learn something, and that's an example of something that was so powerful to me at such a young age that I still quote and implement today.
Sure. So I think a big thing to take away here is Todd kind of broke this down to money. We didn't know it was going to be real estate. We didn't know it was going to be rental properties exactly, or where he's working. But you break it down to money, and you can find those books that are based off of that, and then you can kind of pick and choose. So when we're talking about assignments, that's your assignment. Your assignment is to find more, learn more about money. So figuring out a book, reading that book, and then gaining that knowledge and really applying it to whatever you're going to do in the job, in the career, in the actual duties and responsibilities you do every day. I think that's the kind of takeaway here. So
absolutely,
that's a good recap on reading. Now it's up to you guys to really actually start to read and find some books, really dive deep into them, and then when you're done reading those books, kind of take a reflection and see what you've learned, what you can implement, and really what's the next challenge you need, because reading the same book over and over again never helps anyone.
Right.
So consider that too. So that's your advice, and I want to thank Todd for
Thank you.
kind of discussing reading, which is one of our loves, and hopefully you guys can find a love in that as well. Thank you.